Thank you to all the supporters, donators, and patrons on Patreon.
And now back to your regularly scheduled deprogramming.
Our thoughts are not solely our own.
Where is my mind?
Wake up, Alice! 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 Alice!
Hello there. I'm George Putnam. I'd like to begin with a fact, a simple yet shocking fact. It is this: a flood tide of filth is engulfing our country in the form of newsstand obscenity and is threatening to pervert an entire generation of our American children.
There is a school of thought which says that our culture as a whole, I'm not just talking about the United States or the UK, but in many, many countries, is being pornified, and that young people in particular are so exposed to pornography, so young in their lives, that it's materially changing the way males and females relate to each other, the way they think about relationships in a potentially very corrosive, damaging way. What's your take on that?
Of course it affects relationships. And porn addiction is very prevalent in America, and I'm sure here too. The things that men see in videos, they expect from the women in their lives, and that's just not reality. And reading the words of some of these girls who have been sex trafficked and forced into porn, and all of these stories of girls whose lives have been ruined by it, and by men who have taken advantage of them, and by contracts that they didn't even understand the jargon of, it makes me feel like, okay, maybe it was good that I started talking and that I posted this interview and that I'm speaking out now, because other people feel the same way.
Just like Bernays sold women the idea that smoking cigarettes was synonymous with women's freedom, women today are sold the idea that pornography and prostitution are empowering jobs, that the commodification of women's bodies into objects that can be bought and sold for profit is somehow in alignment with ending global sex-based violence against women and girls.
Pornography is really prostitution on screen. The traffickers are the same, the pimps are the same, the women and girls and men and boys are the same victims that are being sold in the sex trade.
There isn't pornography over here, prostitution over here, and trafficking over there. They're interlinked.
Bernays believed that any product or idea could be sold to the public through the use of propaganda as long as the propagandist understood group psychology. In his classic work, Group Psychology and the Analysis of the Ego, Bernays' uncle Sigmund Freud described group psychology as being, quote, concerned with the individual as a member of a caste, of a profession, or as a component part of a crowd of people who have been organized into a group at some particular time for some definite purpose. The proliferation of pornography and prostitution in today's society organizes women as a group into interchangeable sex objects that can be bought, sold, traded, degraded, abused, raped, and even murdered for enjoyment. It also organizes and grooms boys and men to view themselves as part of the class of people who use women as objects and tools for sexual gratification, whether it be directly through prostitution or indirectly through consumption of pornography.
When he puts porn into Google, what does he think he's going to come up with? Probably pictures of breasts, maybe a naked woman. In reality, he is catapulted into a world of sexual violence.
Gail Dines, the author of a book called Pornland, says for the average teenage boy, porn is his first formative impression of sex.
He's not got a reservoir of his own experiences of sexuality with other people. He's probably never had sex with another human being.
And it's not just boys. Winifred Bonjean Alpart was only 12 years old when she shockingly admitted she'd not only seen porn, she says she understood all the innuendo. Winifred is part of this new order of teens brought up in an era where explicit images can be found just about anywhere.
We're like the first generation to have what we have. So there's no one before us that can kind of guide us. I mean, we are the pioneers.
And these images can be traumatic. Her friend Danielle first learned about sex on a porn site.
It was this one black guy, one Hispanic guy, and this one very blonde woman. And they were just like ferociously banging each other. It was very, I mean, I came home, I was bawling my eyes out. I'll never forget it.
The first porn I watched.
Like it was like full on, like hardcore porn.
It was someone eating Fruit Loops out of a bowl that had been like inserted, I guess, into her like prolapsed anus.
What are the categories of porn?
Categories of porn.
Bondage and discipline, dominant, submissive.
Public, gangbang.
Incest ones. What? Yeah, there's incest porn.
Stepmom, stepdad, stepbrother.
Then there's like DDLG. Oh God. Which is like daddy dom, little girl.
Increasingly free and accessible porn sites like Pornhub.com feature videos depicting misogynistic, incestuous, torturous, and pedophilic themes.
This sexual health worker has looked at the impact of porn on teenagers.
Our research showed really young kids were engaging with porn, and yeah, there's no counter messaging.
She says for many teens, porn is now the main form of sex education, and that's dangerous when most content depicts violence against women and there's really meaningful consent.
Has pornography become child's play? In just a few seconds, teenagers are able to watch X-rated movies on their smartphones if they wish to do so. It's easy, free, and almost trivial for many of them.
Putting it on the phone makes it really, really easy for anyone to get hold of anything.
And what they're watching is having a direct influence on how they act. 1 in 3 students has seen their first X-rated movie when they were 13.
What have you learned from porn?
I'd say you learn what to do in the bedroom from porn.
Yeah, I think the boys do get unrealistic expectations of what will happen with girls.
There are things that they'd like to do or that they try to do that you aren't really comfortable with.
In pornography, they're always submissive and always offering up themselves to the man.
Yeah, I would say from watching porn, it's made me expect girls to act a certain way in a bedroom.
I've had friends who have felt pressured by their boyfriends to do things that they'd seen in porn.
And just like, you fucking like it, don't you? And it's like, ooh, don't know.
I think there's pressure on the sexual relations we will have. I think there's a lot of pressure on our bodies, on what our bodies should look like.
Women have to be like porn actresses. They shouldn't have any body hair, just like porn stars. They have to have large breasts like porn stars. They have to act like porn stars. And so they think that women can't say no to anything.
Cognitive script theory is the idea that media provides a heuristic learning model that outlines what we think should be happening in a given scenario, how we think people will respond to our actions, and also what the outcomes of the overall interaction will be.
The academic journal Annual Review of Sex Research found 50 peer-reviewed studies directly linking porn consumption to sexual violence. As access to the internet and subsequently violent pornography increases around the world, so too does male violence against women and girls.
So what pornography does, unlike any other propaganda system, is it actually cements women as a subordinate class in the body and in the brain via orgasm. It is a fantastic form of propaganda, where you have a full body experience to cement an ideology that the oppressed group, A, deserve to be oppressed, and B, should be annihilated because they're less than human.
Bernays was heavily influenced by his uncle Sigmund Freud's insights into group psychology. In his book, Crystallizing Public Opinion, Bernays wrote about the group not being merely an aggregation of people or bodies, but rather a state of mind. So long as one engages in group identification, their mind and behavior will be changed by the enduring influence of group psychology, even with no other members of the group physically present.
Because the more that you could encourage isolated sexuality, sexuality that had very little to do with real communication and outreach to other people, the more that you could encourage it to be violent and isolated, i.e. one person alone in his room with pornographic materials, jacking off, the more you could do that, the more isolated people would be, each from one another.
Never in the history of the world have the merchants of obscenity, the teachers of unnatural sex acts, had available to them the modern facilities for disseminating this filth.
The online world is flooded with every conceivable kind of sexual image. As many as 30% of all our online searches are for porn.
High-speed presses, rapid transportation, mass distribution, all have combined to put the vilest obscenity within reach of every man, woman, and child in the country.
Teen is the most searched for word on porn sites.
You guys are teeny boppers. You get all the young shoots because you're really young looking.
These girls are among thousands of naive, fresh-faced, but legal 18 to 20-year-olds plucked from small towns at the click of a mouse. Girls like Carly, brought up in a generation in which porn seems to be everywhere.
There are a lot of people on porn having sex, and nothing's going wrong. And everybody's happy, you know, so it's really confusing.
New girls are often paid to do what's called abuse porn, which gets 60 million hits a month. Abuse porn shows girls performing obscene acts that can cause them to vomit or bleed.
A 2010 study found that 88.2% of porn scenes analyzed contained physical aggression and 48.7% contained verbal aggression. The study also found the perpetrators of aggression were usually male, whereas targets of aggression were overwhelmingly female.
95% of these women's responses were either neutral or expressions of pleasure. So pornography is actually teaching that women think violence is sexy. It's teaching that often, the majority of the time, sex involves some form of violence, some form of coercion, some form of degrading verbal abuse.
The degradation of these people is so complete, as shown here, that their sex satisfaction and climax come only in being tortured themselves, of inflicting torture on others.
And if you were to click on the 20 most popular videos on Pornhub right now, this is basically what you'd see.
Jason, age 14, wrote, "Guys urinating and defecating on women, women with animals, men torturing and raping women. I've seen it all. And so have a lot of my friends." We started off right away with hardcore. It's right there, always in your face.
I think the weirdest thing that I saw was like porn with hamsters in it. 4 dudes in pterodactyl costumes just on this one woman.
This picture hints at the common idea of bestiality. Dr. Sorokin, the renowned sociologist at Harvard, says that today the newsstands, quote, depict the world as a sort of human zoo inhabited by raped, mutilated, and murdered females.
I have spoken to thousands of young women, and what I hear are often women overwhelmed with trying to negotiate what it means to live in a culture where they are dating and having sex with men who have grown up with pornography. They are literally overwhelmed. They don't know how to negotiate it.
Okay, stop! Stop!
What did I do?
Why did you grab me like that? I couldn't breathe.
I don't know, I thought you liked it.
Why the fuck would I like that?
Pornography then becomes a script to navigate real-world sexual experiences. People are looking at pornography, and then that's how they think that sex should be, how it should sound, how the actions should be acted out. They figure that based on what pornography is showing them, that will help them understand what the other person will react to what they're maybe doing. And so pornography is not simply a fantasy because it serves as a template for actual sexual behavior for many users.
Obscene literature is a $2 billion a year business. That's $2 billion. But through this salacious material, these abnormalities are corrupting the minds and the hearts of our children. Perversion for profit.
With pornography being an over $100 billion industry and receiving more internet traffic than Netflix, Amazon, and Twitter combined, it is safe to say that pornography is absolutely influencing and shaping mass culture and affecting group psychology. Freud said that one must take into consideration the fact that when individuals come together in a group, all their individual inhibitions fall away, and all the cruel, brutal, and destructive instincts which lie dormant in the individuals are stirred up to find free gratification.
I've met a lot of men who were motivated to commit violence just like me. And without exception, every one of them was deeply involved in pornography, without question, without exception.
A meta-analysis of 46 different studies reported that the effects of exposure to pornographic material were clear and consistent across all of the studies, and they found that they put one at increased risk for committing sexual offenses and, again, accepting rape myths.
How old were you when you watched porn for the first time?
I was 12 or 13, something like that.
Did it shock you back then?
A little bit, yeah. It was violent at times. It looked like it was easy for them.
If it was violent, what made you keep on watching?
Well, I liked it after a while. It makes you feel aroused. I would wonder why women in pornography aren't like that in real life.
We see that this sexual template that we're being given from pornography, saying that no means yes, that hitting is fun, does then often link with actions.
These publishers know well that once so exposed, the insatiable curiosity of youth will cause him to delve deeper and deeper into this grotesque material until his utter depravity is complete.
A UK-based campaign called We Can't Consent to This has begun documenting the rise and the use of what's being called the rough sex defense, in which a man murders a woman and claims she had asked for rough sex.
We just reached 1 million signatures from the petition to shut down Pornhub and to hold its executives accountable for enabling and profiting from the rape and the trafficking of women and children. 1 million from 192 different countries. This has truly become a global grassroots movement of accountability against a mega corporation and the mega pimps and traffickers behind it, to hold them accountable for complicity in these horrific crimes of abuse against some of the most vulnerable in our society.
Pornography is the most succinct, the most crisp, the most efficient form of propaganda that exists in our society. And again, it's women who are the collateral damage of this.
In Propaganda, Bernays penned, "The question naturally arose, if we understand the mechanism and motives of the group mind, is it not possible to control and regiment the masses according to our will without their knowing it?"
The FBI's own study on serial homicide shows that the most common interest among serial killers is pornography.
Subscribe to my channel for more unique content about sex robots, transhumanism, the normalization of pedophilia and drag kids, and the manufactured consent of transgender ideology. Please like, share, and subscribe to help subvert censorship and support independent, female-created media. My channel is not monetized. If you want to see more videos like this, please donate by using PayPal or become a patron on Patreon. This subject matter is dark. Positive messages are appreciated. YouTube has removed some of my videos for alleged hate speech, so I've made a backup channel. You can subscribe by going to my main channel page and navigating to the top right and clicking the Channels tab. As YouTube continues to crack down on freedom of speech and information, this channel could disappear completely. To watch all of my videos, including those already banned from YouTube, visit my new website, www.thedeprogrammer.com. To find more regular content from me, you can follow me on Instagram at thedeprogrammerxx, where I post original and unique materials nearly daily. If you appreciate what I do, please consider supporting me by becoming a monthly supporter on Patreon, or make a one-time donation via PayPal by visiting www.paypal.me/women-against-sex-bots. As always, thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and don't let them gaslight you.